Good morning, Huntsville. This is MS4.
And good morning to you, Scott. We're ready for our science briefing this morning, if it's a good time for you all.
We'd love to hear it, and good morning to Tim as well.
Good morning, Scott. This is Voice Check. How do you read me?
We're you loud and clear, Tim.
Great. Okay. Well, let me update you a little bit on our science progress here. We had an excellent meeting this morning, our SOPG. We had several science teams showing some actual science data that we've been able to process since we've started the mission. We saw some data from the Krista people, the Marcy people, from Moz, from Atmos. Just everybody's delighted with how they're getting the data and then being able to process it now. I guess some of that comes with experience. As we do these missions, we get more experienced and capable of doing real-time data processing.
Well, Tim, we really appreciate the opportunity to have some real-time data to see the exciting science that Atlas is providing to scientists around the world. And we're also encouraged that the solar instruments are performing with such high precision, and that Moz was able to deliver some very valuable science. And Ellen wanted to say hello here as well.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for the briefing. We really appreciate it. And we also, again, want to say thanks for sending up some of these charts. It's really nice to get some feedback during the mission of how things are going. Please say hi to everyone for us and thank them all for the great job that they're doing.
Okay, Ellen, I'd be glad to do that. And again, thank you all, and it's good to talk to you. We'll talk to you again.
Sounded like Jean-Francois to me.
We'll take it up through northern Mexico and then across the midwestern United States, passing out above the Great Lakes region. Atlantis is now crossing over the west coast of Mexico, again on a course that will take it northward through Mexico at an altitude of 165 nautical miles. A very clear day above northern Mexico and much of the Midwest for the U.S. as we continue to take live television from cameras in the cargo bay of the spacecraft.
Okay, Joe, we've got you on the flight deck.
Yeah, since we've got 20 minutes here, I thought everyone might enjoy a little tour of our home away from home. So I'm going to go over and unmount the camera and show you around a little bit, if that sounds good to you.
Joe, we really would enjoy that tour.
Okay, and the blue shift is sleeping, and Don is downstairs working on Jean-Francois' heat pipe experiment because Jean-Francois is asleep. So we'll be able to talk a little bit down there, but we're trying to be quiet while they're taking a nap.
Hello, Ellen.
Hello there. I'm up here taking some pictures to support the Atlas experiments. Every 5 minutes I'm getting some pictures of the atmosphere out the window, so I'll be disappearing momentarily to do some of that.
We wanted Judy to see how we've got our cameras mounted, and she would be so proud. We've had some excellent Earth ops passes and have shot up a fair amount of film already.
We see the target of our IFM discussion.
Exactly. And this is what you were talking about down here. I'm saving the best part of my lunch for last there.
What is that on the tray, Joe?
We only have, from left to right, cheese spread and then a drink, some peanuts, what used to be dried beef, and what used to be applesauce, and then right there, the red thing is our favorite shrimp cocktail.
We have a good view of your spot computer running.
The picture you see there is the payload folks from Marshall we were pleased to take along with us. And then that's Ludwig the Lion from the Krista Spas folks. And as you know, you'll get in any position necessary to get a good picture, and that's what Ellen's doing right now.
Looks like you're aiming towards the northern coast of California. Or even up as far as north as Washington, possibly.
Yes, possibly. She's trying to co-align with the Mars, as you know. Well, we'll take you on down Route 66 here to the mid deck and see what Don is up to.
We see Don carefully working with the heat pipe experiment.
That's right, Dave. Right now we're at a point where we've got 24 watts on this heat pipe, and the temperature between the probes is at about 6.7. We're about to dry out the heat pipe or reach the limit of its performance.
It's fascinating that we reached that temperature.
And we're at, right now at 71 degrees centigrade. These heat pipes are effectively a pipe with a small amount of liquid, in this case Freon inside. Along the heat pipe are temperature sensors to tell what the temperature is along the pipe. They're used as an evaporation condensation mechanism to transfer heat from one end to the other, and we artificially apply heat with heaters on one end. And as the heat pipes evaporate and cool down at the other end, they make sure that the heat is evenly distributed along the pipe.
They can only do this to a certain limit of their performance, and we're about to reach that right now. These heat pipes are used commonly in satellites to cool the heated side of the satellite from the sun and transfer that heat to the opposite end of the opposite side of the satellite. And this experiment will help us understand how those heat pipes perform so that we hopefully will be able to better design them. We see a view of some of our mid-deck stowage lockers.
All right, Dave, I'm on the handheld down on the mid deck, and I can't hear you because we have the speaker turned off, but I thought I'd give everybody a tour of the experiments. What you're looking at right there is STL, Space Station Lost. And that's NIH R1. PCG test costs. Those are the two SAMS accelerometers, acceleration sensors, and there's the third one right there. And that's the SAMS instrument itself. And finally, that's PCG S-test. That is our galley.
We see the salt and pepper.
And of course, everybody wants to see the WCS.
It looks spotless.
And this is how we get mail from you and send letters home to the wife and the kids and the husbands.
See, we're going up through the inner deck access to the flight deck.
Okay, I'm back on the flight deck mic now. Is there anything in particular you'd like to see that I haven't shown you so far?
It's a great tour. We've all really enjoyed it. We see we're coming up over Hudson Bay now. I think it's interesting that since we started this tour, Joe, we've gone from maybe 200 miles off the west coast of the United States to Hudson Bay.
Things happen real fast. If you want to take a picture or something, you have to really be ready. And of course, that is Atlas, and before we deployed it, Crystal Spas was berthed right behind it.
Joe, we have about a minute and a half left of television, and at that time we'll hand over from the West Hedris to the East Hedris satellite.
Roger. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for the downlink.
Thank you. We all appreciated it.
any questions.
See you next time.
See you next time, Joe.
Okay, thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston. This view is of Johannesburg, South Africa, as Atlantis passes above the Cape of Africa, 165 nautical miles up on the nighttime side of Earth. Again, the view below, the city lights of Johannesburg, South Africa.
Houston, Atlantis with the SAM's status check.
We're ready to copy.
Measure the power lights on, data lights on. Drive 1 is full and 2 is not. And no arrow light. And the system, drive number 2, tricolor LED light is on.
Okay. We wanted to give you a little explanation today of the instrument we call SSBUV, and that stands for Shuttle Solar Backscatter Ultraviolet Experiment. And the objective of this instrument is to measure ozone. It gives us ozone over a variety of altitudes as we travel around the Earth. And one of the main reasons that we fly this instrument is because although there are a lot of other satellites up with instruments that measure ozone, the data from all these different ozone instruments don't compare very well, and it's difficult to get a good number on what those instruments are giving us. And also, the data from these other satellites degrade over time because of being up in the space environment. So by taking up SSBUV on the shuttle, we can calibrate it very carefully before and after flight and get very precise data while we're flying and use it to correct these other instruments for ozone. And as you know, the goal of this mission is to study our atmosphere and particularly to look at the ozone depletion problem. So I wanted to give you just a little bit of background on what we're looking at up here, and I brought up a couple of charts to show you. This first chart here gives you, let me just orient you as to what you're looking at. Each of these shows the southern hemisphere, and the very center of each of these pictures is the South Pole. And so what you see in the center here is the continent of Antarctica, and as you move out, you're heading towards the equator, so the outer boundary is the equator. This first picture is from 1979, October. This was about the first time that scientists realized that we were seeing a loss of ozone in the Antarctic around October. And as you can see in the picture on the right, by last year, the ozone has been depleted considerably. And let me just orient you to the scale. The oranges and yellows and greens are the most ozone, and when you get down into the blues and especially the purples, that's very little ozone. So you can see the difference in that amount of time in how this ozone hole has developed each October. The reason scientists have determined that the reason that the ozone is depleted during that time is due to chlorine in the atmosphere, most of it coming from chlorofluorocarbons that are used in human activities. And during the winter, at in the last chart. This is from October of last year, the ozone hole over the Antarctic. But by 2 months later, because of warmer air coming in from the mid-latitudes and breaking up that isolated air mass, the ozone is much well distributed, and you can see that the atmosphere is recovered. We're flying right now in a period that would be right between these two pictures. So we have an opportunity not only to measure ozone, but with some of the other instruments on board to measure 2 or 3 dozen other chemicals that participate in these reactions to find out more about how the atmosphere recovers during this period. And that will give us a lot better understanding about what is actually happening with ozone depletion. And I should mention that, of course, although we're up at a very opportune time to look at the Antarctic ozone hole, there is also a worldwide ozone depletion, much not nearly as pronounced as this. So far they've looked at about 4% per decade as what has been depleted over the globe as a whole. So we're taking measurements all around the Earth with SSBUV as well as with the other ATLAS instruments to learn more about that long-term problem. And we'll be coming back up, both me and Scott Perezinski, to talk about some of the other ATLAS instruments on future days of the flight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ellen. That's a great description of how important our space program is to our atmosphere.